The morning everything changed. I was standing in my kitchen holding a carton of eggs, and Sarah walked out of the bathroom in my robe. The old gray one with the fraying sleeve. And I dropped every single one of those eggs directly onto the tile floor. 12 eggs. Gone. I'm a 32-year-old man with a lease, a reasonable credit score, and apparently the composure of a 7th grader. She looked at the eggs, then at me, then said, "Should I be flattered or concerned?" I had no answer, which was strange, because I always had an answer. That was the whole problem. I had spent 19 months in this apartment being very articulate about every feeling except the one that mattered. And now Sarah Malik was standing in my hallway in my robe with damp hair and bare feet. And all 19 months of careful distance were pooling on my kitchen floor with the eggs. My name is Daniel. I'm a freelance architect, which means I work from home, talk to my laptop too much, and once spent 40 minutes redesigning the layout of my own kitchen on graph paper instead of just moving the microwave. Sarah was my neighbor before she was my roommate. 3rd floor, apartment 3B. The one who always had cumin and cardamom, cooking at strange hours, and who left a note on the building's shared printer that said, "If you use the last of the paper, you replace it." This is civilization. I had liked her immediately. She was a pediatric nurse, worked rotating shifts, ran on strong chai and zero tolerance for nonsense. She grew up in Lahore, moved to London for her degree, came to this city 3 years ago for a job that she refused to complain about even on the hard days. Her one visible flaw was that she alphabetized her spice rack and judged people who didn't. She moved in because my previous flatmate left on 2 weeks' notice, and Sarah's building had a mold problem. Practical. Temporary. She was going to stay 3 months while she found a new place. That was 19 months ago. On her first day, she set a container of leftover dal on the kitchen counter, looked me in the eye and said, "I cooked too much. You are welcome to eat it, or I will eat it for 4 days, and neither of us will be happy about that." I said, "What kind?" She said, "Tarka. Red lentils." I said, "I'll get bowls." That was how it started. We did not make official rules. We were adults. We did not need rules. We absolutely needed rules. The unofficial ones went something like this. Sarah used the kitchen between 6 and 9 a.m. I used it after 10. We knocked before entering the other's bedroom. We split the Wi-Fi and the electricity. We did not discuss our personal lives unless the other person asked. We were flatmates. We were just flatmates. Rule 3 lasted approximately 4 days. She was sitting at the kitchen table at 11 p.m. on a Thursday with a hospital form and a pen that wasn't working, tapping it against the paper with increasing aggression. I was making tea. I put a second mug down in front of her without asking. She looked at it, then at me. Then she said, "My patient died today. He was 6. I sat down. She did not cry. She just talked quietly in the way people talk when they have been holding something at arm's length all day and can finally put it down. I listened. I refilled her mug once. I said nothing useful, because there was nothing useful to say. At midnight she said, "Sorry, you didn't sign up for this." I said, "Neither did you." She picked up her mug and went to bed. But she left the hospital form on the table, and in the morning it was filled out, which meant she had come back and finished it after I'd gone to sleep, which meant she'd trusted that I wouldn't make it strange. I should have paid more attention to that. The line between flatmates and something else doesn't move all at once. It moves in small, specific, deniable increments, and you only see it clearly when you look back. It moved when she started leaving the kitchen light on after her night shifts, because she'd noticed I worked late and hated the overhead light. She never mentioned it. I never thanked her for it. We both pretended it was accidental for 3 weeks. It moved again when I had a site visit that went sideways. Client changed everything. 4 months of drawings scrapped, and I came home at 7 p.m. to find she'd made nahari. The slow-cooked kind that takes hours, which she only made on her days off. She put the pot on the table, sat across from me, and said, "You look like someone deleted your hard drive." I told her about the project. She asked exactly the right questions. Not to fix it, just to understand it. By the time the pot was empty, I had already started planning the redesign in my head. She washed up and said, "Same thing happened to a colleague of mine. His second plan was better." Then she went to her room. Simple. Clean. No. Acknowledgement that she had spent her day off cooking for a person who needed it. It moved when she fell asleep during a film on the sofa, and I turned the volume down and kept watching. And when the credits rolled, she was still asleep and her sock-covered feet had somehow ended up tucked against my thigh. And I sat there for 22 minutes not moving because I did not want to wake her. The moment I could not explain away came on a Sunday in November. We had spent the day in the apartment, separately, doing separate things, and at 5 o'clock she appeared in my doorway, holding 2 cups of chai and said, "I saw a flat. Decent price. Near the hospital." I said, "Oh." She handed me the chai. Her expression was carefully neutral. I said, "Is it good?" She said, "It is fine." And then neither of us said anything for a while, just stood there in my doorway holding our cups, with the weight of a word like fine sitting between us. She didn't take the flat. 3 weeks later, her sister called from Lahore. I wasn't meant to hear it. I was working in my room. The door was open. Her voice carried. She was speaking in Urdu, quickly, the way people speak when they're trying to keep something small. But I'd lived with her long enough to know the difference between her fast Urdu and her upset Urdu. I went to the kitchen and started making tea, loudly enough that she'd know I was there, not listening, just present. When she came in 20 minutes later, her eyes were dry but her jaw was tight. She saw the mug waiting for her on the counter. She sat down. She wrapped both hands around it. "My mother wants me to come home," she said. "Not visit. Come home, permanently." I sat across from her. "She says I have been in this country long enough." A pause. "She says it is time I stopped. Her word is drifting. That I am drifting." She looked at the mug. Then, quietly, "She is not wrong that I have been staying somewhere. That was supposed to be temporary." The kitchen was very still. I understood she wasn't only talking about the flat. She looked up. Her expression wasn't sad. It was something more complicated, like a woman who had made a decision and was watching to see if the decision was going to make itself unnecessary. "Daniel," she said. My name in her mouth sounded like a question I had been too careful to answer. I put my hand on the table. Not on her hand. Just on the table, near hers. An inch between us. "Don't go," I said. She looked at my hand, then at my face. "Why?" she asked. Not unkindly, just precisely. I had spent 19 months being very good at not saying things. I was an architect. I understood structure. I understood that some walls existed for a reason. Load-bearing. Essential. Not to be removed without careful planning. And I had decided somewhere in the first 3 months. That saying, "I think I am falling in love with you" to my flatmate, was the kind of demolition that could bring the whole building down. So I had not said it. I had made chai instead. I had sat with her at midnight. I had left the overhead light off. I had moved the microwave to the better counter because she mentioned once, that its original position made no ergonomic sense. And all of that had apparently been legible to everyone except me. I picked up her hand. She let me. Because I said, I turned the volume down on that film and sat there for 20 minutes. "So you could sleep." She blinked. "Because I know you take your chai with 1 sugar in the morning and no sugar at night. And I don't remember learning that. It's just in me now. Because when you said that flat was fine, I spent 3 days hoping you wouldn't take it. Because you alphabetize your spices, and I find that completely unreasonable. And also, I reorganized mine the same way last month, and I haven't told you." She stared at me. Then, and I was not expecting this, she laughed. "Short, sharp, real. You alphabetized your spices? Cardamom before cumin is objectively correct. That's not Daniel." "I know. That is not a confession of love. That is a confession of spice organization." "Sarah." "Yes." "I love you. I have loved you for a long time. I was being very careful with it, and I think I overcorrected." She looked at me for a long moment. The kitchen was quiet. Somewhere outside, rain had started, the soft kind. Not dramatic, just persistent. Then she said, "I know you have." I waited. I was waiting for you to stop being careful. I leaned across the table and kissed her. She kissed me back with the directness she brought to everything. No hesitation. No performance, just her, entirely present. When we broke apart, she looked at the counter and said, completely calm, "We have had the same brand of chai for 7 months. I know. You switched brands in month 3. You switched to mine. I did. She smiled. The private one. The one I had been collecting without realizing it for 19 months. Idiot, she said warmly. Sarah never took the flat near the hospital. She moved 4 feet to the left. From her room to mine, which involved one difficult conversation, one very easy decision, and an argument about pillows that I maintain. I won, and she maintains never happened. The spice rack is now jointly alphabetized. I am not allowed to be smug about this. She still makes too much dal. I still eat it. On her night shift weeks, I leave the kitchen light on. And on my late work weeks, she leaves chai in the flask without being asked. Some habits become infrastructure before you notice. You only realize later that you built something. My sister came to visit last spring and spent one dinner watching. The two of us in the kitchen. Me at the counter. Sarah at the table, talking about something I can't remember. Her feet up on the chair rung. My hand briefly on her shoulder as I passed, and afterward my sister said, "How long has that been going on?" I said, "Officially? About 8 months." She said, "And unofficially?" I didn't have a clean answer for that. Some timelines don't have a start date. They have a morning you drop 12 eggs, and a woman in a gray robe. And the specific sound of someone saying, "Should I be flattered or concerned?" And you understand. Too late and exactly on time. That caring for someone every day in small ways is not nothing. It is not just cohabitation. It is the longest love letter you can write, one ordinary moment at a time. Sarah still alphabetizes her spices. She still leaves notes on shared equipment when people misuse it. She still makes nihari on her days off when someone she loves has had a hard week. Last Tuesday was a hard week. I came home to the smell of it from the hallway. I opened the door. She was at the stove, not looking up. She said, "Sit down. Tell me." I sat down. I told her. By the time the pot was empty, I already knew what to do next. Some people walk into your life as a temporary arrangement. Some arrangements become the only thing you'd never want to undo. If someone in your life has been showing up for you quietly, in small ways, for a long time, have you told them what that means to you? Leave your answer in the comments. And if this story stayed with you, hit like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.